No, not this Niagara. This Niagara, over here in Toronto. To discuss this neighborhood farther, we'll start in the northern portion of it and make our way from there. Over here in the light orange/brown are a couple things and stuff in an area with a decent variety of zoning and buildings, but the majority of what's there is more or less skewed towards modern apartment buildings and or condos. There's even some homes around it as well, which is cool. Living here, among other things, provides you with a great view of the iconic CN Tower and other downtown buildings dwarfed by it. Buildings just a relatively short trek away, because if you cross Bathurst Street, which is this major street along the eastern border of the neighborhood, then you're officially in downtown, so that's cool. However, you don't have to venture over there to get stuff, since right along King Street, as well as Queen Street, along the northern border are both major, vibrant shopping districts, and overall great streets to be right near. There's also lots of buildings along the streets which to some extent tower above the shops that they host on ground level. Bathurst also has that kind of vibe to an extent in pockets. This theme is also more or less prevalent a little south-east, closer to the water of Lake Ontario. In this modern patch, which has lots of shiny, tall buildings and seemingly quite expensive condos. It wasn't always this way, though. A time ago, this area was primarily industrial near the lake, but then revitalization sort of happened. Sort of. And it became what it is today. Part of that had to do with trains, people. Since there's this rail line that turns into two right around here, as you can see. Overall, though, that's not actually the history this area is known for. The history this area is known for is more or less in the shape of Fort York, which is right around here, and is one of the most profound historic areas in the whole city, and potentially even beyond. Everyone. This place has a lot of cannons and historic buildings right on relatively tranquil green space in a very convenient location right near most everything. Originally, it was used to protect the British soldiers from the evil Americans way back in the day, but now it's a fantastic, friendly historic place, one of the neighborhood's main attractions, and definitely somewhere to check out, even for the purpose of just relaxing. That's not the only attraction in the neighborhood, however, far from it, because if you venture just west of there, and the oddly spelled, somewhat major street of Strand, I don't know if I pronounced that right, Strand? Whatever, well at last, and south of this highway, which is the Gardiner, you'll reach this very notable general area more or less mostly made up of centers and convention things and whatnot. Every August and September for a period of time, this place hosts, or is, perhaps I should say, the CNE, or Canadian National Exhibition. Pretty much the largest event in the whole city, and one of the largest in the whole country. Everyone. When this place is popping, it's pretty much a big, bustling makeshift amusement park with a couple extra events, sort of. Although some would argue that it's the other way around. This event is widely acclaimed and beloved, if only for its sheer relative scale. A place that was an amusement park all year round is this, now abandoned part of Ontario Place, just south of Lakeshore Boulevard, which is this big boulevard right near the shore. Basically, as far as the amusement park goes, they wanted to build an iconic amusement park for all people, not just folks with money. And they sort of wanted it to be some kind of source of quintessential Ontario pride, because they were looking at what other places were doing and sort of getting a bit jealous. So they artificially created this whole place on the water and built on it. Long story short, it was mostly great when it lasted, and even had the first permanent IMAX theater in the world. Everyone. However, for various reasons, the main one having to do with money, they shut it down in 2012, and now it looks like this. It's still a surprisingly neat place to check out because it's abandoned, but it's certainly not what it once was. This whole area is kind of derelict, even beyond the initial amusement park. That is, except for over here. Over here is Trillium Park, which is a very nice, grand spanking new park. Formerly mostly made up of a bunch of parking lots and other things of that nature, this delightfully modern, $30-odd million investment of a place is now a fantastic park/trail. Perhaps one of the best parks in the whole city. Everyone. It's pretty much a serene trail right by the water, which contains a few really nice touches to it, and is even a place where you can look just east from and almost always catch a stunning view like this, literally the whole main portion of the skyline. If you're going to have a picnic or just want to go for a walk, there's no better place in the city for it, simple as. At some point, most of the rest of the land in Ontario Place is sure to get rejuvenated in some form or another, since the land's too valuable not to. But for now, it generally remains like this. If you want to know more about Ontario Place, and even the C&E as well, for that matter, a channel called Old Toronto Series talks about them in more depth than I ever could. I'll put links to the videos in the description if you're interested. Another place of note is Coronation Park, which contains a nice field and a lovely patch of trees overlooking the water. There's also a very nice bike lane that goes along the park and continues on way west, all the way over to Etobicoke, which is a whole other region of the city altogether. Terrific if you love biking primarily. If you venture a little west along, past a bunch of sort of dull parking lots, you'll reach Maryland Bell Park, right along the shoreline, which, as you can see, is partially in the neighborhood, but most of it is in Parkdale, or South Parkdale, however you define it, the neighborhood just west of Niagara, and which is a very interesting neighborhood to say the least, so keep an eye out for that. Everyone. Just east of Coronation Park, in the southeast corner of the neighborhood, is another one of those mostly very nice and shiny built-up majority residential areas, with condos and apartments and whatnot, literally right on the water this time. That area is right on the verge of Little Norway Park right over here, which is a lovely little compact park just west of Bathurst, which actually begins or ends right here, before it becomes the parking lot for Billy Bishop Airport, which is a little airport right along the shore. Kind of neat. Another nice park in the neighborhood is Stanley Park, which is split by the aforementioned King Street. Just north of the park runs Adelaide Street, which is pretty residential around here, but becomes a very major downtown street as you go farther east, which is kind of interesting, I suppose. The street that runs south of the park is Wellington, which has a somewhat similar dynamic to Adelaide around the area, except just south of the street and the park is this nice little trail that runs over the train tracks. This short trail has yet another stunning view of the skyline. Wellington becomes Douro, however you say that, as you go gradually west. But if you venture just a little east of there, you'll reach the neighborhood's namesake, which is Niagara Street. Niagara has a school along it, but overall, funnily enough, it's hardly even a major street at all. It kind of has a neat shape though, so that's cool, I suppose. Although overall, it's lame. Kind of. Other streets you could call major streets in the neighborhood are Shaw Street and Tecumseh Street to an extent, as well as the tail end of Ossington right here, and Dufferin over here. Similar to the aforementioned Adelaide, other streets that aren't major streets in the neighborhood, but become major as you go in various directions, are Dovercourt Road, and to a much larger extent, Richmond Street, which turns into a very major street downtown. Oh yeah, and how could we have forgotten about BMO Field, right in the middle of the CNE area? That's the place that Toronto FC, Toronto's soccer team, plays at, or football team, if you're from a country who actually takes the sport seriously. Once I went there and high-fived all the players, which was cool. Okay, so in short, Niagara's probably not as jam-packed with stuff as this Niagara is, but nevertheless, it's still pretty loaded.